Welcome those of you who are on the watching the recording, and of course those my friends who are here live with me. This is the first ever in the history of the world, as far as I know, Curiosity Roundtable. This is an experiment in trusting one's inner guidance, and I'll tell you the backstory. Here we're recording on Friday, 26, 2023, May 26, 2023. And just yesterday, I sat down to write a sales page for this workshop that I have upcoming. And immediately I got hit with this idea to do this instead. I said, okay. And then, what do you mean? And bam, 4 names come to mind. And they're the 4 of us that are with me. Randy and Allison and Lee and Daniel. So about 11 o'clock yesterday, I sent them all an email. I know it's Memorial Day weekend. I said, if you're curious, call me. Ended up talking to them all by 6 o'clock last night. This was the only time, 6 o'clock tonight, everyone could make it. And here we are. So what we're going to do today is you're going to see 7 truths of how I believe life really works. And I've asked each of my roundtable participants to come with questions about any or all of these truths. I don't know what their questions are. I gave them the truths this morning about 10:30 a.m. So I don't know what their questions are, but the first truth is, under how life really works, which is the heading for them all, is you must tell the truth to yourself about yourself. Otherwise, you may forever suffer the consequences of a resistant life. Resistance is everything less than total accepting responsibility. Totally. Resistance includes doubting, numbing, pretending, avoiding, hiding, trying to be perfect, and delaying. So, by a show of hands, who has what they think might be an interesting question for this one? Nobody? Nobody has? Your curiosity didn't come up? Go ahead, Randy. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's truth and there's the capital T truth. How do you, obviously, I have perceptions about what I believe is true for me, but how do I actually see what's really going on?
Yeah. Well, I believe how we can be totally sure that we're seeing or hearing truth is that we look at what we desire and the truth comes up in the form of the internal block we have to realizing that desire. That's how we can be sure. If it comes up in the block or the belief or the feeling or the attitude that's in the way of us realizing what we really want, we can be sure that that's truth because it was installed back there when we were all kids. And unless we've done the hard work of releasing it, it's still there. And then once we release it in that particular life area, the real truth, the rosy side of the truth, has room to come out. Follow-up question from anyone on that one, or a question on number 1? Any other question? Going once, twice.
I have one.
Yeah, Daniel, go ahead.
So what are the distinctions between my truth, right? The truth that I'm to tell myself versus the truth that, say, I've been conditioned to believe?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call that the latter your truth. I would call that your conditioning. We have to make a distinction, right? So how you can tell the difference, the core truth of truth feels expansive, exciting. You're alive, you're vibrantly alive, just seeing it, just thinking about it. Like when I got this idea, boom, immediate action. Now, the other truth you were talking about, that's kind of contracting. It doesn't have the energy with it. It has a darker energy to it. So the feeling side is the only way that I know to discern for sure. Is that helpful? Okay, good. Anyone else on this one, or shall we go to truth 2? Okay, let me see how I can do this page down. Oh, that's not working. Let me see. Oh, wait a minute. The cursor. There we go. Now let's see. Where will I move your heads? Oh, there. Look at that. I got you where I wanted you. Now I wonder if I can move you in a little bit so I can read the dang thing. There we go. If everybody stays on this side of their camera, I can see you. And Allison, you're in twice, once with your name connecting and once with your office. So I'm sure you're going to join us. Okay. Lee, will you please read this one for us, please?
I gladly will, Tom. Everything happens for me. Can I speak in the first person?
Just go for it.
All right. To awaken me. Nothing happens to me. Each awakening carries an individual reward that comes to the degree that I am willing to observe and understand untruths while feeling the energy within the personal crisis that awakens me. Become aware of my defenses or remain imprisoned by them. I cannot overcome what remains hidden.
Thank you. You did a nice pronoun change there. I appreciate it. So, any questions on this one? This one's usually a little bit controversial for some. I haven't worked with everyone here. What do you think? Who wants to raise a hand and ask a question on this one? So there's, go ahead.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that some pretty horrible things, or what we would consider horrible things, happen to others, to us, uniquely and individually. So how can we say that everything is happening for us?
Yeah.
See, like in light of just how bad things can actually be.
Yeah. Well, I know you've studied duality a little bit, and because I've seen a couple of your Facebook posts, and in truth, there is no good or bad. So that's the first thing you have to at least be open to considering. And I know there's some nightmare stuff that happens to all of us. Yet it's our response when that first happens. See, everything that happens that we consider bad, it's connected to something that happened when we didn't have the cognitive ability to respond with maturity, with emotional maturity, when we were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. So it's connected on a feeling basis with one of those things. And if we don't have the awakening of really believing this truth, what happens, life will hit us with crisis after crisis until we awaken, because that's life's job. It wants all of us to live an awakened life where we appreciate everything. So you've heard the old thing, when something bad happens, the old saying, ask what's good about it. That's kind of in line with this. To ask what's good about it means you believe in your heart that there's something good, even though you might not yet have the consciousness to see that. But so I would say people that are struggling, and thank you for the deep question here, people that are struggling with this one need to at least be open to the possibility that everything does happen for them. That's why I'm able to, I've made it no secret that I've been in the hunt for holistically healing myself from cancer. I didn't skip out of that office when I first got that diagnosis. I just sat in my car and felt it for a while. But then within 20 minutes, I said, okay, that's what they say. I wonder what's good about this. And over time, I've been able to see all kinds of things that's good. When I was diagnosed, I was 265 pounds with high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. I'm now 208, the best physical shape of my life. I have no symptoms other than getting up all night long to urinate, which I had before the cancer. So last time I was checked, it said it was still there, but I feel great. So because I know it's come for me to awaken me. And you know what cancer has given to me? Because this is the most extreme personal example I can give to answer your question, Daniel. Cancer has given to me the blessing of not being afraid to die. And once you have no longer any fear of dying, nothing can scare you. Nothing else matters. So, any follow-up question, or anyone else have a question for this one?
Yeah, I actually do have a follow-up there.
Please.
How do I cross the bridge to getting to that place where I don't have a fear of death without having like that experience of being kind of at death's door, or having the threat of death like eminently present?
Yeah. Well, the people that are a lot wiser than me say that once we get over our fear of self, in other words, the person that's so deep within, the being that's so deep within, we haven't seen all of it yet. We haven't seen all. Once we get over that, then all time-based things like fear of aging and fear of dying also go away. So the fear of who you really are is the mother fear. Now, I didn't start that way. I didn't come to that realization. I started doing things like when I would break a glass and I used to cuss, or I would cut myself or bump my head and I used to swear and just act like a little kid about it. I started by just feeling that energy and asking what's good about it, and gradually worked my way up. And then when cancer hit, I was ready for it because I've been working on this stuff for a while. Does that help you? Thanks, Daniel. Anyone else on this one? No? Okay. Allison, will you read this one aloud for us, please?
Yes. How life really works. Your only way out is within. Freedom from suffering is only found within. Ceaselessly searching for answers outside of your own inner being is futile. The truth that sets you free can't come from anyone else because it flows from the core of your being.
Thanks, Allison. Now, I know you and I both share, I'm going to call on you specifically here now, because you and I have both shared in the past how much we enjoy searching the internet for endless answers.
Yes.
And at least I've shared with you that I haven't found the answers there. But what kind of question might you have about this one, since you might still be transitioning? I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's a question, but I'll tell you what just like pops up to offer you right now, and then you can respond to it if you wish. Is so I have a problem, and then my first thing is to go like poll my people, like, you know, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And like just the searching outside of myself when the answers that I'm really looking for are within, and like how to trust what's coming from within isn't the ego mind and is my true self. So it's like struggling with learning to trust what's coming up, like is like the true voice for me, is my higher self or higher power, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So, and like learning like how my inner self wants to communicate. Some people like hear a voice, some people feel something, some people have like, I don't really know because I don't really trust myself, because that was something that was never taught to me. And like, it's something I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So,
Do you believe that the truth that you have within is the highest truth and the best thing for you to follow?
the true voice, yes.
You believe it's there. You just haven't connected to it reliably enough to trust it at this point. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Okay, good. So if I were you, I would start talking to that voice more often.
And I think my problem is I'm talking to it like all day long, but never making time or space to actually listen to the guidance that comes back. It's like, that would be the question. How do I make the time and like learn to trust that?
Yeah.
What the advice is.
That's, religion does it by setting a time to go to church.
Yeah.
If you're your own religion like I am, you have to set the time spiritually. I mean, before I started, I lit this patchouli wood so I could smell it. That always brings me to a meditative state. When I start, I get very reverent because I think it's a sacred communication. And the way I ask is beloved life force energy. That's one of my many synonyms for God. Beloved life force energy, would you please open me to see the blocks that are getting in the way of me seeing my highest truth. So I don't ask for the highest truth directly. I ask to see the blocks. If they're in the way, I'm better off to see them and deal with them than I am to go right to the truth, because I might doubt the truth. It might seem too profound or too wonderful to believe. But if I could get to the blocks, yippee, I got something I can work on. I could ask further questions about those blocks and say, that's what's stopping me. I wonder when that started. And bam, something will come into my mind, another memory. And then at each stage back, if you can work your way all the way back to childhood, that's the best way to release. Sometimes it stops in my 20s, sometimes in my teens, but each way back, you were either feeling confused, frustrated, ashamed, something like that. If you can feel that feeling, then you're chipping away at it and the truth could come through. So unless you're really good at manifesting, or I have a previous connection that's really solid, I don't think it comes immediately. I think you got to chip away the stuff that's in front of it. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, so that would be the question: how to identify and remove the blocks.
Yeah, well, you got to identify them first. And before you can identify them, you got to ask to see them. And then you got to trust that they're coming, because truth comes spontaneously, I've learned, and not always instantly. That's why I love open-ended questions. I wonder, what would it take for me to see the truth around my relationships? I wonder, what would it take for me to see the truth around how picky I am with the woman I want to date? I mean, ask specific questions in a sense of wonder, and that's signaling the universe, okay, Tom's self-will and stubborn pride isn't in the way. We can help him a little bit. That's the way I see it anyhow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else on this one? How are we doing on time? 6:45. I told you guys it's only about 6:19 now. We're good. All right. Follow up or interesting original question on this one? Come on, guys. Be real. Be vulnerable. You promised you would be, didn't you? Or at least that's what I asked you to be. I'm being real, aren't I? You feeling it? Good. You can call me out too. I mean, I want the people to know here that this is real stuff, that rather than look at my website, and I have two of them, they're both need updating, and read some article I wrote 15 years ago to decide whether I might be your coach. Wouldn't it be a nice thing to just know what your coach actually believes? Before you get into the pit with them, So and it can be a pit. Life can be a pit, a bear pit, a lion pit. Oh, getting a little biblical here. All right. Anybody else? All right, on this one? Okay, we'll go on. Since we're talking about feeling here, I'm going to do what I forgot to do in the beginning. If you don't mind. If you go within it all, I'm going to ask us to just go in, since we have the time, just go in for like 3 or 4 minute meditation. So shut your eyes if you like to do that. Take some deep centering breaths. Beloved life force energy, will you please be with us in our search for the truth? Will you please allow Randy and Allison and Lee and Daniel and Tom to reach deep for their truth, for their fears, for their vulnerabilities, so they can share with authenticity and sincerity everything that's getting in the way of them living their vibrant lives. For by doing that, we shall uplift humanity. Now, just 2 minutes of silence. And please, if you're watching the recording, I hope you're doing this with us instead of asking, I wonder how long this guy's going to have his eyes shut. In just 2 minutes of silence, imagine that you are personally selected to uplift humanity. And until you give of your personal contribution, humanity will be sagging as a whole. Okay, everybody, thank you for that. And I noticed my little camera is a little bit off center, but I've learned not to mess with technical things in the midst. I'm liking the way things are going now. The recording's happening, the slides are advancing, so technology has been blessed. So I already went to feeling good isn't enough for transformation. I see this all the time on Facebook and other social media. People get so excited by inspiring stories. They get so excited by inspiring quotes. But they only speak to our potential. They only provide at best temporary hope unless we also uncover the discomfort that arises when we personally consider acting on the insight that inspires us. You think about that, and the shit will surface. It will come up. And that's what we want. Inspiration must be actualized by doing something meaningful, or it's wasted. Now, I've shared with my buddy Lee something that we have in common, and that's getting all excited about a workshop and then not marketing it sufficiently for anyone to show up. And it can be heartbreaking. But even inspiration that comes from yourself, if you don't take action on it, it's going to be a lesson in life, but who needs more of those? You know, so what I do now, and that's why this whole roundtable came about, is I look at and start to think at actually marketing it and think about it to see if any of those thoughts come up. I wonder if anyone doesn't come. I wonder if no one comes. I wonder if this one will work. I wonder, you know, and all those questions we have. Well, when those questions came up, this time, instead of jumping right over them to stay happy, I felt them. I felt the energy, that down energy. And that's why you guys are all on this call. Because after I felt the down energy, the idea came in, bam, do this, Tom. This is something different. This could work. And if it doesn't work, I'm still blessed, right? Because everything that happens to us happens for us. It's a whole different way of looking at your life, and it's so much easier than being all tense and hard. And I wonder if I'm going to earn enough this month and all that stuff. Everybody that's on the call with me today is either already self-employed or very seriously wanting to be. So there's some special fears that come up when you walk away from that steady check. So anybody want to ask about this one? This one's got to be somewhat controversial for somebody. Do I have to call on people? Lee, curiosity coming here.
Yeah, so I suppose somewhat like what you offered, Allison, not necessarily a question directly, but something that comes up for me, which is actually a dream. Dream work has actually been a big way in which I've tried to make a practice out of kind of getting in touch with that deeper self. And sometime in the last year, I had a dream. I'll save kind of the whole story, but basically there was this magnificent horse in the dream in which I was supposed to ride, but I totally felt like I did not know what to do to ride this horse. And then in the following scene, I'm eating a meal in a desert by a campfire. And I have this understanding that the meal that I am eating is the horse this beautiful horse that I was supposed to ride. And what I took me a while to work with this dream, but what I realized is that I have a tendency of idolizing this kind of perfect scenario, right? And I think that's what you're describing here, Tom, of kind of the inspiring story, right? The horse is the inspiring story, and as long as it's out there that I can kind of say, "Oh, look at that," then I can kind of have the same sense of like, well, someday, or if only, and the dream actually says, no, you've got to kill the horse. You can't have the idol. And not only that, but you're going to eat it. You're going to make it a part of you. You're going to ingest it and bring it into yourself. So I've really carried that image with me as part of this. And sometimes, like what you're saying about that energy of feeling kind of down about something not working, and saying, okay, well, that that energy is valuable. I don't want to like get rid of that feeling, because then I lose that energy. So how do I find a way to convert it? I think that's what you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's kind of what comes up for me.
Okay. Go ahead, Allison.
May I respond?
Sure. I didn't hear a question, but you can make a comment.
Yes. My energy type is to respond. So I like that the feeling good isn't enough for transformation, because I'm addicted to that. It has to feel good. It has to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So then I just don't do the thing. And my life purpose is called like the artist in the spotlight life purpose. And when I'm not living my life purpose, I'm the bored conformist. So that's how I know when I'm always out of alignment, which is like pretty much daily. But like as an artist, if I wait to feel good and wait to be inspired, I'm just never going to make the art. Something I was reading said like sit down and write every day, even for 5 minutes, and just have the habit, even if you're not inspired. If we wait for inspiration and we wait for it to be perfect, like those circumstances are never going to happen. It's just like more building the muscle. That's like something we can actually do, is like build that habit muscle of like showing up every day to do the thing. So how do we slay the dragon? That's my question. That's like, it's not perfect. I'm not inspired today. I'm not in the mood, my muse isn't here. So I guess that would be the question in my response.
Well, the way I do that is routine. And once again, cancer was the blessing. Ever since I had that diagnosis, I started a meditation, a visioning practice, a feeling practice where I don't care who wants me to coach them. I don't schedule before 10 a.m. 8 to 10 is my time. And if you start your day that way, every day, your truth will speak to you. At least that's what I found. Now, remember I shared in our Power of 8 group, Allison's in my Power of 8 group. It's an intentional prayer group. And I shared there that I do really well in the beginning until noon. And then after I have my lunch, do my 15 minutes of rebounding, which I do also for my lymphatic system, which is connected to the prostate. Then I take my 15-minute nap. Sometimes when I awaken, the inspiration is gone. So what I did last week, it was last week, is I asked my Power of 8 folks to see me checking in with my higher self 3 times daily. And I'll tell you, by the 4th day that I did that, I didn't even have to start the question. I got my journal out, I started to write, and boom, the voice was coming right into my head. And I felt it enough where it was truth. So practicing that muscle, it works. And that's what routine does to me. And if I use a guided meditation sometimes, and if I get tired of a meditation, I know exactly what I'm going to have, when I'm going to have my coffee, about an hour in, what I'm going to put on my toast, what candle I'm going to light. Everything, because it's like the muscle is building. Okay, here comes Tom again. Somewhere out in the ethers, my higher self is saying, let's have a visit with Tom again today. So, and I know 2 hours might be a lot for some of you to start giving, but I find the more I give to life, life gives me back. And at least if it doesn't come in outer manifestation, it comes in true feeling good. Something that's not just empty inspiration, because I now act on the messages I receive. So, anyone else on this one?
Yeah, Tom, I have a question here as well, because this has probably over the last 3 years been one of my toughest sticking points. Ever since I sort of came into this realization that I could be led by something greater than a should or supposed to, or any idea that I have to do something because it's the way that we do things. I feel like I fell off the other extreme side, right? I went from doing things because that's the way it was supposed to be done to looking to feel everything out. And
You're freezing, Daniel.
like if things weren't perfect, didn't move. Oh, am I back?
Not hearing you. Your internet is frozen or something.
Am I back yet?
You're back now. Ask the question. Oh.
Yep. What is I want to succinct here. As far as determining that inner voice versus the part of us in our humanity that doesn't want to move.
Okay. So you're asking how to tell the difference, or what is the question?
Yes. What's the distinction there between like that inner voice kind of guiding us? Like you said, you're not going to take a call before 10 a.m. You're not going to take a call before 10 a.m.
Right.
Now, how do you determine that to be inner guidance as opposed to, say, a part of you that just wants to sleep in?
Yeah, I think I answered this already. It's how you feel. If you feel expansive, uplifted, it's truth. If you feel contracted, fearful, doubting, it's not. So, so I would ask a question. Let's say I was really tired and I wanted to sleep in. I would ask a question of myself right then before I got up. Is it good for me to get up now or roll back over? And sometimes I get up, and if I start to drag a little bit later, I say, hey, you nap every day, Tom. You can give yourself another one or a longer one today. You have the schedule to do that. Just do it. So sometimes you learn your truth so much. I used to hate the word discipline because when it was used in productivity and all that, it always felt like it was something hard. But there's a graceful discipline as well. And that's when you get locked in and aligned with who you are and what you want to do. I have no doubt that I'm here to uplift humanity through helping people know what their calling is. That's always what I've worked on the most. Sometimes it doesn't start directly in that direction. Sometimes we start with somebody ending a relationship that is not conducive to them being free or feeling free. But you got to go with the feeling, man. Arnold Patent, in this book that you might be able to find, it's called You Can Have It All. He said the way to get good at feeling is the simple things. Like when you cut your finger, don't freak out. Just go to the tap, run water over it, and feel the throbbing. And he's absolutely right. It doesn't hurt. You just watch the blood flow out. It's just boom, 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 boom. That's showing you're alive. So start with the smaller things to get good at feeling. Now, when I first started this, it was a feeling that would come in the front of my thighs. About 6 years ago, it started when I really knew I had the right idea. I would get pins and needles in the front of my thighs. But then that didn't come often enough. I wanted greater confirmation almost on a daily basis, or at least weekly. So that's when I started a conversation. I believe in a totally good universe. I believe in a buddy God. I mean, really, my buddy has my back, wants only good for me. That's the God I believe in. All right. So I just have conversations all day long. I call sometimes beloved life force energy, sometimes universe, sometimes spirit, but sometimes God. Sometimes I say Christ consciousness because I was just reading something where they were talking about Christ consciousness. It's all the same thing. It's that steady flow that's there for us. And you discern, which is really your question, the lack of discernment is laziness. I really believe that. The lack of us not wanting to find out what something is really us being lazy. Because everything that we have that's not a great feeling is connected to another one that's not so great. Does that help at all?
It does, and it sort of affirms what I've been experiencing
Cool.
these last couple weeks. So definitely, thank you.
Sure. Hey, to stay on track, I see we're at 6:38. I'm going to move on. Randy, we haven't heard from you in a while. Will you read that one for us, please?
Sure. Number 5, life-changing truths cannot be grasped intellectually alone. Language can only point us to a desired possibility that we must then fully feel to comprehend its truth and energy.
Now you see, thanks, Randy. You see this in a lot of spiritual texts where they say there's so many dimensions in life that we can't see, where there are other beings and other entities. Many of them are there to help us, but we can't grasp it. It's a dimension beyond the 5 that we have. But the only thing that comes close is the feeling of it. So I know you've all had what felt like a miracle feeling. Sometimes these are highlights. I remember one, I used to speak at a Unity church. This was, probably 20 years ago. And I would speak when the minister needed a break or went on vacation. And one time we decided to have this like talent show, this spiritual talent show. So I sang my own lyrics to the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and I lit up like a damn Christmas tree. I was just throbbing and vibrating so much. I sat down, it was a half hour before I came back into reality of the place. We all have 3 or 4 at least of those kind of experiences. Am I right or not? Let's see. Everybody's shaking their head. Randy, are you cynical on this one, or you with us?
No, I'm with you.
Okay, I didn't see your head. I'm looking for the bobbleheads, and everybody else can do bobbleheads. So, okay. So, is there any question about this truth, or do you guys accept it that at that point you were aligned fully with your inner guidance and your inner being, and that had a truth for you that I mean, I know I'm not Frank Sinatra. I know that I love to teach and coach more than I love to entertain, but there's some connection there. And that's why sometimes I also belong to a flow pod, which is Daniel and I are in the greater group called Flow Mastery Institute. And my 5 people flow pod, sometimes I'll feel so good when everybody takes their time with their vision, I'll sing my vision instead of stating it. And it embarrasses a couple people, but I'm not embarrassed. That's me wanting to come out and play again. So remember those times. There were some hints there for you. What was going on in your life? Why were you graced in that particular way, that particular day? It could have been an athletic accomplishment. I remember a rugby tournament where I played second row, and we scored maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 games if we were good. And one tournament where we played 4 games, I scored 6 times. Unheard of. I never played that well again in my life. I don't know why it graced me then, but the songs felt better after doing that tournament. And we won the tournament too. So we all have those highlights. Any question on this one before I rapidly move on? Looks like I am going to rapidly move on because I don't want to cheat anyone. And I told you guys 45 minutes. So I guess we'll have to save the question unless somebody's raising their hand with an urgent one. Okay, I let go of myself. Okay, life-changing truths cannot be grasped. Oh, that's where we were. Come on now. There we go. Your real self is the source of your waiting wisdom. It's accessed only to the degree that you believe it's there, have accurately asked for it, and trusted the special guidance when it comes. Now, the middle one is probably where the questions come for most people. How do you accurately ask? You ask by not asking for the thing directly, but by asking for the block that's in front of it, that's keeping you from seeing it. That's a correct way to ask for your good. These prayers of supplication, please, Jesus Christ, save me. Please, Jesus Christ, help me see, illuminate me, help me see what's blocking my good. That's a prayer I believe that Jesus Christ can hear. Question on this one? Daniel says he's fired up. I say Jesus Christ, and he's in the choir. He's with me. All right. I'm sorry for you guys recording that we're just getting to the point, but I promise these guys 45 minutes, and they have never met one another. So we're going to turn off the recording in 2 or 3 minutes and introduce one another a little bit. So I don't know. I hope you guys that watch this, I hope somebody spends enough time to watch it, realize that you can follow through on something that you've just heard yesterday or hours ago or minutes ago, and it can have a nice result. I think this is a nice result. I'm getting fired up. Okay. Control is an illusion. Fear blinds us from seeing the right decision. Acting without delay on intuitive guidance means you must trust your real self in the basic goodness of the great unknown. I don't know why people have so much with wanting to get things perfect or wanted to know what's going to happen before it happens, but that really trips so many of us up. It's 6:44. I'm open to one really good question on this one. Who's inspired? Come on, feel it in your heart. No? You're all buying it? You're comfortable with the basic goodness of the great unknown? Lee?
I love it, Tom. Yeah, and I don't have a real solid question. That I don't have any doubt about this. I certainly what you're saying about the need to know. I relate to that, but I also, that sense of like, well, if I am really knowing myself, I should know exactly what my calling is in this moment, and it should all be kind of perfectly clear. And my thought is that it's just that we are so comfortable, or that we've lived in our brains so much. And so what you're saying about making a practice out of feeling, if I had any question, it would be, you've already answered it to some degree, like what are your practices around feeling? I have my own, but it'd be interesting to hear if there's anything that you haven't described already.
I haven't shared tapping, emotional freedom technique. That's exactly what it's called, releasing the emotions that are stuck or frozen within our muscle memory that's connected to everything. The body's connected, the heart's connected, the mind's connected. So you can look up EFT or tapping, and if I get really stuck, particularly with a client, I'll just take them immediately. I'll say, tell me what's going on. Tell me why you're not feeling so great. And then I've learned to be good at kind of becoming them in their mind and take them through 2 rounds of EFT, where the first one, we actually say all the things that are bothering them. So we're being honest about it. In the second one, we're saying what they want the transformation to be. And usually by the end of that, you can move a problem from a 3 or 4, or a 9 or 10 all the way down to a 3 or 4. And that tells me that it works for them. So they ought to do it again on their own until it's at 0. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is all the time, I don't ever react with emotional immaturity anymore. Emotional immaturity is wanting what you want in the way you want it right now, just like a little baby. Babies deserve it. 5-year-olds deserve it. At 6 or 7, we start to train them a little differently. Daniel has 4 kids, so he has them in all sizes and ranges, so he knows, how to do that. So the way to practice feeling is to feel it at every opportunity and to recognize when you're being a pissy little kid. And you can be that way with yourself too, Lee. Like, why didn't I get my way? You can almost feel the energy of stamping your feet, Randy, were you motioning like you had a question on this one?
No, I was just nodding in agreement.
Cool. Well, I thank you all for being here. I thank you, those who have listened to this. Who knows? There may be another Curiosity Roundtable coming up. I'll let you know. And once again, the email by which you receive this link to watch this video, you can connect with my newsletter, which comes out every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. And that's the best way to know how to reach me about everything.